All right, here we are. And look at that. Look, you see, Phil, how all of these sources just kind of work together and everything kind of just fits and you can see everybody. It's a beautiful thing. Hello, good evening, everyone. You got me, you got shittiest TB player here tonight. This motherfucker dragged me out of bed because something order 66 something. Phil, how you doing tonight?
Dude, we are surviving. It was a rough night of getting children to sleep.
Yeah, somebody has responsibility.
Yep. Unfortunately, my wife. Once I find some, I'll let you know.
Can we just take a minute, because I know we did beforehand, and just appreciate the Fat Phil haircut, because my boy over here, he cleans up nicely. He does. I appreciate that he did that for me. Just for me.
That was just for you, by the way. Nobody else.
I know.
Nobody else gets that.
Not
the wife.
I saw something on your Discord. I don't know if you saw it. Somebody on there was like, you need to stop being gay. Like in a joking way. In relation to something I said to you. And in my head,
I missed
like,
this.
In my head, I was like, no, I can't do that. That's just how I am with friends.
That goes against like my moral code of what it means to be friends with somebody.
It's like that. Now I'm gonna crank it up to 11 just for you.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's got to get worse at this point.
Oh boy.
Next stream will come on with a sweater tied around my neck.
I'm gonna get. I wanted to do this year, and we just didn't have time. But maybe I'll do the reverse. I was gonna have Moonborn make Egnard's ugly Christmas sweaters, but now maybe I'll do one with like the Phil and the egg logo, like in the middle with a big heart. I'll see if we can get that done, because I like nothing more than to spend my money on stupid shit.
Oh yeah, that's the whole point of making money, is that you get to do the things that you never got to do when you were a child.
So, speaking of spending money on stupid crap, we have this thing in school. It's kind of like a just like a fun, silly thing we do with the class. We call it Lava Time, and we do it at the end of the year. We started as a tradition last year with one of my classes, and it's when the kids are all fed up with learning, and the teachers are all fed up with learning, and we just need to fill time. So we go on Disney Plus, and we play the Lava Song. Which appeared before Moana. It kind of goes like, if you probably heard it before, but it kind of goes something like this. It's like there's like a ukulele playing in the background, and it goes, "A long, long time ago, there stood a volcano."
Oh yeah.
You know that one? Okay, yeah. So we do it like every day with the kids, just because we're fed up and we need 5 minutes to ourselves. And last Friday, I found on Amazon a $20 pink ukulele, so that I can bring it in to school. Unfortunately, I had my wife bring it to her parents' house this weekend to have it tuned, because her dad plays instruments, and she forgot it there. So I have to wait till next week before I can show off the ukulele and come into school poorly playing a pink ukulele.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. That's the kind of stuff that kids remember, though.
It is, and that's the kind of stuff I like to spend my money on.
Yeah, if one of my teachers did that, I might have not misbehaved as much.
Oh, my kids this year don't deserve it, but it keeps me sane. All right, so we have a few things on the docket tonight, and I feel like I pulled the rug out from under you by taking over this stream that is really yours. But to be fair, one, your ass had responsibility and I had time to set it up. I had so much time that my wife came downstairs and was like, you haven't started yet? And two, I'm much better at being pissed off at the end and saying, okay guys, we're just done. Bye. Leave.
Yep.
So
works for me.
I wanna follow your lead here. With everything that we have going on tonight, where do you want to start?
I want to start with the original question that I got in my comment section.
Okay.
And so I reached out to you, man. It's definitely over a week ago, if not like 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was before,
because it was
you
like
were
right
just on vacation.
And yeah, and the question was, does it make sense if you're, and the way they phrased it, it's always weird. I like the one thing with this game that's so hard, if you've ever noticed, somebody says, oh, for a mid-game player or a free-to-play, and you're like, well, what does each one of those mean to somebody?
Yeah.
So, like, but it was basically, the way I would phrase it is it worth not investing in the new raid and continuing with Naboo or going back to, like, Endor or whatever, one of the older raids, kind of ignore Mark III raid currency and build whatever the hell you want to build instead. And okay. I was like, I want to get Egnards for this because I always like the way you come at topics in this game, that you come from like what's the return, whether it's the era battles or your like the slice of bundles and the ascension packs. It's what does it cost you? What are you getting out of it? So I was like, I need to get him for this because I feel like you'll have more insight into some of the things that I would just be like, just trust me. You'd be like, no, here's the numbers, bro.
Well, I think it's hard because we don't have all the data right now, but we can at least talk theory, right?
Yeah, and my thought was, it's a good concept to discuss now before the raid is here. Because once the raid's here, it's already too late to, at least in my mind, if you waited to start farming all the new characters until the raid launches, like you're already behind.
Oh, absolutely.
But I want to get...
Go ahead, finish your thought.
I was going to say, I just want to know, what is your knee-jerk reaction to hearing that? What would you tell somebody?
Man, so... first of all, I agree. I did a bunch of roster reviews between Sunday and Monday because it was Memorial Day. And there were so many people asking about like raid stuff and like what they should do. And they always come in clumps. And this clump just happened to be like a lot of early mid-game players. So 3 to 6 million. And, yep. And I was looking at their rosters, and I would look. Obviously, my first thought would be to look at Bad Batch, just because that is the first farmable thing. And I noticed that a lot of these people hadn't even started their like there'd be like 3-star Fugitive Omega, and I'm thinking she has been farmable long enough that you should have her 7-star by now. But I guess
close.
Well,
I'm not a 7-star yet.
I've been 1x refreshing it, so I did for half the time, I should say. I stopped maybe a month ago. Yeah, about May the 4th.
Yep.
So I think the first thing we need to do is if we go into the raids, right, and we look at Battle for Naboo is what is active now. So we go to Speeder Bike Pursuit, rewards.
Yeah, you want to... It's like, you can look at like the max crate. I would even just look at where the Mark 1 and Mark 2 like stop really increasing.
Yeah, that's so like at 832, which is the max, you get 17k and 10.5k. Right? And remember, yep. These reward differentials would have been bigger in the past because of MK3, but they've kind of like leveled things out. At this box you get 10.4, 424 you get 10.3. It looks like you only lose about 100 MK2 per level.
Yeah, like I'm looking at like 36 million. Go to like the third box.
Yeah, okay. And you get all the MK1. Yeah,
so your MK1 never takes a hit. And then you get 9700 Mark II, which is 800 less than the max crate. So you figure for literally like less than 10% of the score,
yeah,
you're getting 99% of the rewards, give or take.
Yes. So I think what we're kind of both getting to the conclusion of is, and remember, when we talk about raid rewards, we can only talk about the assumption that it's going to work similarly, because we don't know. We have no idea. we can only assume until later. But essentially, if you're a guild doing Battle for Naboo right now and you're in the lower end, when they do the shift over, as long as raid stays the same, like the way that they pattern it, it really doesn't matter what box you're getting. You're gonna get the same MK1, and yes, it'll be nicer to get more MK2, but the amount of MK2 you're getting increasing is insignificant overall.
Yep.
Right? So the other thing we want to look at, and this is one of the things that I had pulled up on my screen. First of all, I would have loved to take the actual source, but as we all know, when they transferred over the forums to their new forum, it bugs out, and now clicking on forum links just sends you to the forum.
The welcome screen?
Yeah, so I couldn't even find the post. But thankfully, I did do a raid comparison very early on, right? Of course. Between Speeder Bike and Battle for Naboo, and like average guild points, and how the MK1 and MK2 and the MK3 interact. And again, we're talking about like the assumption of this working very similarly. But even if we look at the first box, right? So the first box for Battle for Naboo, your guild needs 10 million, which is an average score of 200,000. Right?
Yep.
That is, and difficulty tier 0, I don't think, if I remember correctly, for tier 0, you don't even need 7 stars.
Yeah, it's just
it's anything.
Yeah, I don't think there's actually a requirement for that
There's
tier.
no requirement for that tier. So I guess what I'm thinking here, you know, if we go back to where are my raw data, you'll get about 5,000 less MK1 at the 10 million, about half the MK2, but you'll also get 500 MK3.
Yep.
And to me that, I mean, doesn't seem worth it.
I would agree for the first box.
For
That's
that first box, I don't think that it is worth it at all to do that. You're losing. You definitely need more going. So people in chat are saying 5 stars is required, which to me is negligible. You can get that up and going fairly quickly, especially with era battles now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. If you can't get a 5-star character, like, stop.
You know, you get it at 3 stars, and then it is 30, about 95 total shards, but you get the 15, so it's actually 80 shards. And then the era battle, even if you only get the first.
I see it. It's not when you click the base difficulty, but on like the main summary page of Battle for Naboo, it does say requirements 5 stars.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what the hell? See that right here.
Someone fix that.
They're nothing if not inconsistent when it comes to putting things in the game. I would say it's negligible, especially with era battles now, making it a little bit easier to get those shards. I don't think it is. If you're a guild expecting to get that, and again, talking about this in terms of Speeder versus Battle for Naboo, if you're a guild getting the 10 million points, I don't think the loss of MK1 and MK2 is a smart move for you. I don't think... Go ahead.
I was going to say, because you need the Mark 1 and 2 to increase your roster to get the next box. To increase your roster.
Right? So if we go back into game, right, and I'll go to the store... and I go to the guild activity store and we talk about MK3, think about what you're buying with MK3. You're not buying Zetas because they're just too damn expensive. You're not buying the lower stuff, you know, it's all high-end relic material. And that's
really only one you should be buying.
Well, I have a whole system, and I buy from gear to keypads all the way down to conductors, believe it or not.
I So it's funny you say that. I've actually stopped with keypads
Okay.
and detectors, and I'm on arrows, Zimbitals, and Electriums.
So I have a funnel system, and what I do is I always want 40 keypads. If I have more than 40 keypads, I stop buying them. And the only reason I have so many now is era battles, right? And era battles being bugged. Which
Hold on, when you're saying how many is my eyes can't read that. How many is that?
So I have 75.
Oh, I have 164.
Yeah, so I don't buy them anyway. As long as I have 40, I don't buy them. Impulse detectors, I have 23 right now. If I want 80 of those. So I buy those up to 80. I want enough to have 2 Relic 8s or 4 Relic 8s or 2 Relic 9s at all times.
Yep.
After that, I buy all arrow magnifiers and electrum conductors. Zimbital cards, I find I get those easy enough, believe it or not. But arrow magnifiers, I try to stay on top of.
Yeah, I can get, I'd say Zimbitals, I do it just so I can use my Mark II to scrap materials to buy Impulse and Gerdas.
Yeah. See, I keep them. If you go to like my scavenger here, I try to keep them above below 500. So if I get to 500, I start scrapping. Right now, I sit around 3 to 400, 450. But I have a system of buying those. But the point here is that MK3 is going to be your Relic 6 and above. Your Relic 6 and above.
And I'd argue if you're somebody who's like debating this,
yeah,
you should only be buying arrow magnifiers because they're the only thing that is proprietary to the raid.
To only that, right? Other than that, it's crystals only for a player like that who isn't, who wasn't sitting on a horde of 1,000 of them from Crancor.
And your guild probably isn't at the point in TW where they're consistent enough that you're gonna get enough of them over a year that it's meaningful.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So if we're looking at that and then we pop back over to these raid rewards, I mean, if I were eyeing this, I would say that at the 22.5, so the third box, is kind of where guilds should start considering, hey, maybe I should be doing Order 66. Because your MK1 is just under the 17,000. And your MK2 is in that negligible zone that we agreed about for the previous raid. Plus, you're getting 1,500 MK3. So I think my sweet spot here is the third box for the next raid, assuming it's all the same.
Yes, and I'm so glad because we didn't talk about this, by the way, because the third box is where I was gonna tell everybody.
Okay.
That's what your guild should be bare minimum doing.
Yeah.
Because it's not a challenge. That is 450,000 points per player.
Yeah, and I'll pull this up right over here so you can kind of see what that looks for, like for Battle for Naboo.
Yeah, like and the thing that where I sat there and I was like thinking about this and where I would encourage players to do, and this is kind of leading into as you think about Order 66, the smartest decision, in my personal opinion, for a player where you're trying to maximize building something other than these raid teams.
Yeah.
Your best bet is to go harder on like one single faction for Naboo or Order 66 raid rather than trying to build a couple of teams. Like, if you, just for the argument of you want to get 1.8 million points.
Okay.
You need to build like 2 Relic 3 teams or 1 Relic 7 team. You're going to spend more signal data building a Relic 7 team, but it's less Zetas, it's less mods, it's less Kyra tech, which I feel like for for a mid-game player, signal data almost flows easier than Kyratex and Zetas and mods. So I feel like you're smarter going heavier into one rather than trying to build like the quantity of things to get through it.
I think yes, when it comes to like building those teams for raids, the way that, well, even starting from the beginning of your whole point, building box for a raid, my guild is a lot more casual than yours when it comes to raid rewards and everything. You know, I've said it to you before, I've said it on here before. You have the more motivated players, and I have I believe anyway, the less, I don't want to say stupider, the less dense officer team, but the less motivated players. And what we try to do with the raids is just increase by one box each time, because it just kind of helps with motivation. And in the early game, maybe you can increase by 2 or 3 boxes by having a bunch of super motivated players. But I do agree with you. You know, if we're looking at like the third box right here, and we're thinking about the teams that this raid is going to have, Bad Batch, you know, which is already farmable, so you can get them to 5 stars. We don't have to go any further than that for a max of 300,000 points, right? Clones, another 300,000 points. You're looking at an easy ability to hit that box, as long as you have players that are willing to invest in guild goals. And then once you've hit that box, right, at what is it, 22 point something million,
22.5, yep.
22.5 million. What is the next one? That's
it's
a
like
triple.
90.
You have to triple to get there. 22 to 67.
Oh,
I feel
geez. Okay, so it's not.
It's still bad.
Yeah.
Right? It's a big deal.
But it also, it's like there's like a big break there.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of levels off a little bit.
Yes, I think there are jumping off points when we look at these things where it like is easier or hard, right? 67, then 78, then 90, right? Then 130, 265, 416, then and 265 to 416 seems daunting, but then it's 520.
I will say the difference though between 416 and 520
is a lot of relic material.
Yes. Yeah, it's not as big of a number, but it's significantly more higher relic material.
Correct. But I think that those players who are at that third box, you're able to do that just by putting together junk teams. And let's be honest, like in a lot of those guilds, you're still going to have 2 or 3 players that like whale or soft whale or overinvest. And that's going to make it easier on everybody else. So I do think that that's the sweet spot. And one thing that, you know, I have the luxury of not having to do for the most part anymore. But you also have people who are going to do things like mod switch to make their lives, I mean, it sucks to do because the game does not make it easy to do. But it will make your life easier with not having to build out so many loadouts of mods when you don't have mod depth.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And the Naboo raid, they made it easier. I don't know if they're going to do the same thing with Order 66, where they kind of lower the ridiculousness of the RNG. I have hope that they do it from the standpoint that it will cause people to not invest properly in the raid if it's completely RNG dependent, like the era battle is.
I've been saying this a lot. Finish your thought. I have lots of thoughts.
And then at the same point, I'm sitting there like, the smartest thing they can do is make the early tiers RNG and make the Relic 9 tier auto. That it's just the cost of entry kind of thing.
So, multiple thoughts. One, when we talk about the history of the new raid system, I think that they have made improvements with each raid.
Agreed.
And, you know, Crate was a 3-day cadence, which sucked. And there were teams that took 2 minutes and teams that took 15 minutes, and teams that you could easily do and teams that you had to retry a bunch of times. The Endor speeder bike run, it was now a 6-day cadence. The runs were super, super fast. But they tried something new. People didn't like it. It didn't make sense. It didn't really feel right. With Battle for Naboo, I have said this a bunch. I feel like it feels the most like a raid. It's just so RNG dependent, which makes it feel bad. And I do very, very strongly believe that CG is going to learn their lesson, or has learned their lesson, and we are going to see a significant reduction in RNG with the Order 66 raid.
Yeah, I'd very much agree with that. I feel like they've learned a little bit from every single raid.
Yes.
Of the challenge pit raid taught them that,
oh my god,
you can't give us carte blanche anymore. You've put too much in the game, and it's not gonna. I feel like the concept of it, like if you go back to what the concept was, I know it's a little bit. It's not. I wouldn't even say it's off topic because it builds into what the Order 66
I go for it. I agree, and I have thoughts on this as well.
The challenge pit raid was designed that you couldn't have one person carry the guild.
Yeah.
And that was the original challenge pit raid. For those of you that aren't aware, there was a point where after every, I think it was 2%,
yep,
the raid got harder
for everybody.
for the guild. So if you were the first person to go for your guild, you had the easiest run, and every successive person after that, every 2%, it got harder and harder and harder. So what guilds did was I would say my guild wasn't in a position to beat it at the time, so it didn't matter. But they would literally put their phone on go into a run, put their phone on airplane mode, get their required score, and just wait. And then the whole guild would be waiting and waiting and waiting, and then they would post it all at once.
And there were some difficulties with that because, one, when it came to phone, remember, there's no PC client. Sometimes you would be, because you'd have to go between Discord and the game to see if your guild was saying post, and people would go to Discord, see post, go back to the game, and the game has refreshed. And they're like, oh, fuck. Basically, they made it like an MMO, and I played tons of MMOs, and I did raiding in MMOs. I was the nerd that stayed up from 8 p.m. until 4 a.m. Trying to beat the Molten Core or Blackwing Lair. That was me in my teens and in my early 20s, so I understand that type of raiding, but it didn't work for this game. When people bring up the old raids, I always come back to Crancor, and I say Crancor is your perfect example of why they can't do that. And essentially, because they go, oh, Heroic Sith was so awesome. Don't you remember how cool it was trying to figure out the strategies? Yes, but there was 130 kits in the game, and most players didn't have 130 of those kits. It was, and there was maybe a tenth of the amount of buffs and debuffs that we have now. It was so much easier.
General Skywalker, going to General Skywalker could clear. He literally could. He had the potential to solo the raid if you got lucky enough.
If you got lucky, but every
minimum,
phase had a cool thing you could do, right? Like Jedi Knight Anakin Deathstorm in Phase 3.
Yes.
Jedi Training Rey in Phase 1.
Yep. I remember my guild, the team to use in Phase 3. Phase 1 was Jedi Training Rey. So factual. That was a good team. That was 4 million. I could get 4 million out of that team.
And Phase 2 was just a bullet shield. You just threw whatever because it was just a regular raid.
And then Phase 3 was CLS, Han, Death Trooper, Shrute, and Rex or something. And you had to get Death Mark on Traya, get Tenacity up on everybody, stand alone with Han, and then just counterattack Traya.
See, I did the Death Storm with Jedi Knight Anakin. You get one guy dead, and then you go into a constant loop, and Asajj or Jedi Knight Anakin just ramp up so much damage.
This was before. I'm trying to think that team there.
Oh, like
I don't know if that
super
strategy.
Early?
I don't think that. That's the one I eventually used was the Death Storm because it was so easy.
But now my point here is, like, it was fun because there was so much less in the game. But then when they did Crankcore, even if you forget about the difficulty, they basically had to turn everything off. They were like, you can't stun, you can't tenacity down, you can't do any debuffs to him, right? Like, they had to basically make the entire thing just this bullet sponge. Hey, we're gonna ramp this so quickly that you get 3 turns and then you're dead. And the new raid system allows them, and I understand, I'm not a fucking moron. I understand that it's about money. I don't need people to say, it's about fucking money. I know, I'm not a fucking idiot. But it does allow them design space to make something interesting. Does that mean they're always going to make something interesting? No. But it does allow them to make something interesting.
And I think it solves their other problem, which was they didn't like that. One, they hated, this goes back to when you could merc. You know, a lot of... So what the strategy back in the day was, I never did this because I just was like, I don't want to leave my guild all the time, but you would finish up your TB, your territory war in one guild, go join another guild, and you'd solo their challenge, the Treya raid, you'd solo the tank raid, and you'd solo like their regular pit raid. And you'd collect all the rewards from those in like a 1 hour time span or whatever. They would get stuff that they wouldn't be able to earn. Like your guild couldn't clear Treya. Somebody comes in with Kylo, solos it for you. You get the shards and everything else. And then they'd go back and join the regular guild. And so they kind of took that away. And that was all part of trying to get it to where one person or a couple people couldn't completely dictate how a guild did for raids. And I think Cranker was supposed to solve that. When they saw that it really wasn't doing that towards the end of its life cycle, that's when I think they went to the new model now, where it's like you get 5 attempts, you can only do so much, and you're reliant on 49 other people to get this done.
Well, I think the other part, I don't disagree with you, but I think the other part of it was the game was at a stagnating point where it was kind of like they were releasing all these characters, but the only people who gave a shit were the people in Kyber 1, right? Like, I would see a new character come out and be like, okay, I don't care, I'll get him in 6 months. I don't need him, right? And now they're putting more and more into the game where it's like, wait, no, actually, I do need him pretty soon because there's more reason to have him, right? Because Conquest didn't exist for some of this. For some of it did, some of it didn't. Conquest didn't exist. Rise of the Empire didn't exist. And we basically solved light side Geonosis, except for the fact that there wasn't enough GP available in the game to I don't think there still is, personally, with the fleets.
No, we're still like hundreds of millions short.
Yeah, because of the way that the deploys work with that. I do like I see people in chat talking about it. I do really like the way the Naboo raid flows. I just feel like even outside the RNG, a player needs to feel like they're making progress. And the Naboo raid doesn't allow you to make progress because you get a guy down to red and then 10 droids go and that guy's back up to green. And you go,
oh yeah,
where's the progress here? I have to kill everything in one hit or one mass attack. And I think that is a failing of the raid. And I do think a lot of that is going to be solved in the Order 66 raid.
Yes, I think they're gonna... I hope they almost go back to the boss fights for the raid.
I want to see a multi-phase raid again. I really would love to see that. Like
go back to the Sith raid. You had like Treya, Scion, or I guess Nihilus, Scion, Treya, and then kind of all three of them together.
Yes, and now it doesn't work the same way in the new system, but like, for example, their failed game Home had a raid. The raid wasn't good. It was very RNG based. I played it for a little while, but the way that it worked was the raid had, I don't remember, I think it was 4 phases. And the first day of the raid, you played phase 1. And during phase 1 of the raid, you did however much damage you could do in phase 1. And if your guild did a certain amount of damage, they unlocked phase 2. And on day 2, you did phase 2. And on day 3, you did phase 3. So each day of the raid, you did something completely different with your teams and eventually got like an overall score. My only failing there is that I don't want to do 5 raid runs 4 times in a week and do 20 runs. So if they can solve that problem and keep the time down to 5 runs total, I would be happy.
You almost wonder if, and this goes to when I played Marvel Strike Force. I don't know if you ever played Marvel Strike Force.
I did a little bit.
So the way raids worked there was it was on like a map. And there was nodes along, like think of it kind of like a conquest, but for your entire guild, where there's various nodes. Now there was some shenanigans where like it got kind of stupid. There wasn't enough energy for you to kind of get the whole way. You had energy, and so there was strategy in your guild. There's some gamesmanship where you let somebody clear the first couple nodes, and then you would kind of, if you were sharing the path with them, you would do all the later ones.
Yeah.
And get way more score. And that was, but I liked that there was node based. And the thing that was cool was that depending on the raid, the teams would change. Kind of like you have with the Beater Bike was this, Crate was this, Naboo was this. And I liked that because it did change it a little bit where for you have Relic 9 Gungans. So when there's a Gungan node, we're going to put Egnards there. And on the flip side, when there's a first order node, we're gonna put Fat Phil there or something. You know, like you switched it around to match the people to the right place. But I hope they can find a way to keep the Naboo raid for me. After a couple of the runs, I'm just so done because the 8 waves for me feels so tedious and so long.
I'm somebody that, I know I get so much flack for this. I hate cutscenes. I do. I hate cuts. I'm getting old. I don't have fucking time to watch cutscenes. If I have 45 minutes to play a game, I don't need to sit there and 30 of it is watching movies. So anytime I go between the ships and the ground, or like before the raid or after the raid, I get it. It's cool. It is so cool, and I appreciate the effort they put into it. If Meathead is watching this right now, I promise you I appreciate it. But also, when I'm doing 5 raid runs a week for a year, I'm fucking over it. Don't think of things in the vein of, they're going to see this once and think it's cool. See this in the vein of, they're going to play this 5 times every week for a year. Will they find this cool in 8 months? And the answer is, at least for me, no.
That's like before they added the ×2 and ×4 speed.
Oh, God.
And you had to watch Count Dooku
do his double attack.
Oh my God, dude. It was...
And now we have
my grandmother moved faster than his counterattacks.
Yeah. And now you have like Nessa with her 4, and you're just like, oh my God. Like, oh
dude,
my
yeah,
God.
it's just gotta just stop. But you're right. Like the cutscenes, the first time you see it, you're like, this is beautiful. And now I'm just like, I need a skip button. And they're beautiful. Don't get me wrong.
They are beautiful.
I see it so many times, and when the raid was RNG based, I'd have to see it even more, and it would just taunt me.
Yeah. And also, so yes, again, just following the chat and everything, I am talking about the between going to space and out of space as part of it, and that you see no matter what. You see that 3 times per raid. But I am also talking about the intro and outro, and while it does auto skip after the first time, that is device dependent. So like for us who play on the PC client and our phones, it doesn't auto skip if you're playing on both, which does kind of suck. So yeah, like I might do my Jar Jar run after work, and then the next morning I'm on my PC.
Yeah, and then you got to rewatch it. I'm so glad you brought that up because that does piss me off.
Sorry, I'm just
so.
There you
no,
go.
You're good. You're keeping up with chat. I'm looking at the.
So all right. So going back to like the way that the new raid is, I do think that 3rd box is the sweet spot for where a raid should start. I do think that you can primarily do that with just fodder teams. You don't need to heavily invest. I also think, and here's an interesting thought, the pirates, they're coming late to the raid. This is a first time. Now, my first thought with this was, hey, I think it's just going to be not an ROI thing, a quality of life thing for whales, right? It'll make the players who spend the most have an easier time maxing what they're already maxing. But then I believe, and Aussie Mike can correct me if I'm wrong, but I was on Saturday morning in the Huts Hangout, the superior 3 scoundrels that none of us can ever be guests on because it's so early in the morning. And I think it was Womprat who had suggested that they might add another box on top of the current max box. And that max box might require pirates.
Ooh.
So you know what I mean? Like if we look at the raid rewards right now, 520 is the max. So his thought, and I'm thinking, hey, this could be kind of cool. Well, cool for the whales because my guild's not going to do this. The new raid will have a 520 box that you can get day 1, but there will be a 600 box that will require the pirates and basically your whole guild getting the pirates.
I don't know. This whole pirates thing, it does piss me off. Well, again, a lot of it just comes down to, I think, the communication around it's just such bullshit. But I think the part of me that gets so pissed off about this is that the pirates are going to be ridiculous for this raid. Yes. Right? I think everybody in chat should be able to agree that pirates are going to be absolutely busted for this raid. Why can't they just be a faction for when it starts? Like, why do we need to wait? And again, I know...
Because we don't have a team.
Well, that's, again, why are we making a team for this raid that the team isn't here yet?
I see you. I hear you.
I know my... go ahead.
So my only thought is that Order 66 is the first raid that's going to be designed around a 12-month cadence. I don't think Naboo was designed for a 12-month cadence. I think something got fucked up. I believe this is the first one that's designed around that longer cadence.
I'm here to early claim my conspiracy theorist award for 2025. I think that the Ahsoka raid got canceled because too many players were ready for that raid.
I don't think it's because too many people were ready for the raid, but I do agree with that to some extent, in that something happened that slowed them down, and they knew that the delay that they needed, by that time, too many people would be ready. So we're kind of on the
Yes.
same page.
Yeah, like whatever reasoning there was, they messed up and recognized that the only way we can fix this is to cancel this raid.
Yeah.
And get people to spend on the next thing.
I agree.
And again, I am not, and when I say this, like because I sometimes I get like mad when people think like I am one where I'm not impacted. Like I shouldn't say I'm not impacted by this, but I'm not really, like neither are you. We're not really that impacted by this decision.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna get the teams no matter what, right? Like we're there. We're not.
You're in the end
there.
game. You're
It's all
getting
the
everything.
Yes, it's all of the people who were going after Ahsoka and sacrificing getting a profundity or a Leviathan or something else because they wanted Ahsoka. There was the assumption, like, and I don't remember if there was legit communication that a raid was coming for them. That I can say I do not remember.
There was not. There was no communication in that regard. It was the assumption specifically because Crate had about a 7-month cadence. Speeder Bike had about a 7-month cadence. They never said a year cadence. They always said, I think it was like 6 to 9 months cadence.
Yes.
So people said, hey, this is the only thing that makes sense.
Yes. And that was, and that's
timeline.
my only, and that's kept me from really losing my cool is that they never straight came out and said, this is for a raid.
Right. Yes.
But it felt like that's what we were leading to. And now, like, Ahsoka is literally a character of, like, zero consequence to this game because there's no TV planet, there's no economy event, there's no anything
I
for
will
her.
fight you. I will fight you on the no economy event. I understand. We will go to blows for a half hour. It'll be a stalemate. Peridia Patrol is the economy event. I know. You don't need to get Ahsoka. You just have to get some of her guys. I get it. We don't have to rehash the battle, agree to disagree on that one. But I do, regardless, agree with you. I've said it a million times. Ahsoka, it's the most boring fight to watch. Especially a mirror. A mirror is like watching two girls at the pool with pool noodles slapping each other back and forth. It is... And if she doesn't have Hezra in her team, which sucks because Hezra does so much better with Rey, it's the most underwhelming thing to watch against even B+ teams.
It's so bad. It really is. And I think this is the first GL where of the new, and I'd say, and I put this in the of the new GLs. Like I don't count.
So Jabba Beyond.
Jabba and Beyond. That they are completely dependent on the, like, you think Jabba, it's Leia and Chrysanthemum is what he's dependent on, right?
Yes.
But
those are requirements, and then Leia, so it makes sense.
Yes. We'll get to that. but then you get, like, Leia, who gets R2 and Drogon. And, like, while there's good places to use Drogon, there's nowhere better than Leia.
Yes.
But with Hezra, it's the first time they've kind of released one of these GLs and the lifter unit is better with someone else. And I feel like with Hezra, as much as I... And what I really... I mean, Jabba sucks without Leia, and Leia kind of sucks without Drogon.
Yeah, but those, but when they're requirement characters, it makes sense. Like you're saying, hey, this is their built team. I hate the idea.
Yeah.
It pisses me off that, like, I get that Cat and Maul were both built, or Lord Vader and JMK were kind of built around Cat and Maul. I don't like that either. But I think that when you build a team around a lifter, it's not a fucking lifter. It's just part of their team. And that's problematic because her team sucks without Hezra. But in GAC, Hezra makes Rey such a wild card. Like, just you might lose. You have the counter and you just might lose. That you always put Hezra there.
You know what? I actually stopped because I was. Now, this is also because I'm fighting people like you who have Lord Vader and all the new stuff.
Oh, speaking
so,
of,
like,
I got my match in today, by the way, just so you're wondering. In order to get to K1, I do have to fight someone else that does have all of the new clones and has a fuck ton of Omicrons. I went through his roster today, and I was like, oh boy, this is someone who spends some money on Omicrons. So
I got my first GAC opponent who does not have one of the new, and Kyber won in like the past, I don't know, at least 6 matches.
So you stole
This
my
is my
match.
first opponent. This is the first opponent who does not have a Relic Dark Side clone. But
you stole my match. I'm not getting into K1 now, all because of you.
But he also has all 4 focused Datacrons, but only 3 of them are level 15. So, like,
I mean, getting all 4 focused Datacrons is not that big a deal if you've bought the episode pass one time. You know what I mean?
No, but 3 of them are level 15.
Yes, so having that as well.
That's insane. I have 1, and that was a lot. But anyway, that's beside the point.
Talking about new characters and the dark side clones is a great segue into Jedi Temple Guardian.
Yes, sir.
I haven't read the kit yet. I generally don't. I was joking on Discord today with like Zavor and some of the guys on my Discord, and I was saying like I'm probably not going to read this kit for 5 months because I'm not going to have a usable one for 5 months. But I guess since you brought it up,
where's your Swiggo Daddy?
If I could have a Swiggo Daddy for Jedi Temple Guard, that would be great because then I could get Mace Windu. I would wail the rest of the way for the last clone. So somebody drop what it would be like 20 gift subs right now, and I'll get myself a Jedi Temple Guard.
I did read this kit. You start out. I'm gonna get some more beer.
Yeah, well, I already did that. I'm gonna start just by saying that I normally enjoy Meathead's puns because I am someone who enjoys puns. But I kind of look at them and I giggle and go, huh, I get it. This is my favorite pun that has ever been put into a kit ever. Legends of the Hidden Temple Guard had me cackling going to my car after work today. It is the millennial wet dream to talk about Legends of the Hidden Temple. I don't know how fucking hard it was to put together that stupid monkey. But this tagline alone brought me where I need to be, and I was happy about it.
I love it.
All right. Go ahead. Yeah.
I have to say, he has done. I feel like when he first started, the community was not fans of his humor.
Yeah.
And either we got used to it, or we began to realize that he's actually very funny, and that the people who were against him were just kind of a small minority. But he has. I feel like he's really grown on the community with his humor, and I very much appreciate it. I actually miss when he was doing when the kits would come out stuff. And they didn't have a pic, or when he didn't have a picture yet. And he'd like draw it, and those were the greatest.
Well, he did one recently. What kit was it that he did recently where he drew a picture? It was one of the clones, and it was fire. Like, it was just so stupidly good.
Yes.
I know Scribe put out a video saying like the return of Meathead artwork, and I was like, oh great, we're gonna have a Gungies category again this year. I don't know where I was going with any of that at all. Oh, Meathead. I think what happened was that Meathead came in halfway through. Yes, it was disguised clone, Havorius. Meathead came in halfway through, and he didn't really know the game or the community, and he didn't earn the jokes yet. He was dropping slurs, and he wasn't part of those minorities. And people are like, no, you can't. You weren't with us. You can't say those words. He's He's
that
had
was
his
the
time.
red. You're right. That was the red 5.
Constantly with the red 5, and it was pissing people off because they were so pumped. They were so ready for it. And they were like, yes, red 5, this is great. I can't wait. And every single month, they would be let down.
I remember getting PO'd quite a few times at that.
But he has earned his place, and he's a very funny guy. And he has that same like dad humor. And he makes references to things that not everybody gets. It reminds me like when I drop a Reddit post and I drop all these like references to the most benign B-level shit, and I just hope that a single person understands the reference. Like that's him. And like, he's earned that place now.
RC Cola for Scorch was like chef's kiss for me.
Poor people Coke. Okay, so what do we got here? You've seen this, key attributes. I don't give it. Well, key attributes matter.
No, yeah, the key attributes is actually the. So the big thing that I'm really looking at here is tank Galactic Republic Jedi.
Yes.
Like we know he's Jedi Vanguard, but having the tank Galactic Republic Jedi. That means Keller and Beck and Qui-Gon are options before Mace Windu's a thing.
Okay.
And that's very important, because that's not only I can be used with Anakin and Ki-Adi-Mundi, but I can also be used with Jocasta Nu and Jedi Vanguard. So I'm very glad, again, I know that like, oh, those tags make sense, but, you know, let me show you Jedi Knight Luke and then tell me what's missing. So I'm glad he has all those tags. I think that's going to help this character really lift. I feel they've done it. I've said this a lot. They do a very good job recently with some characters where they're giving them a purpose before their final one. And like, this is a great example that you can use them with Qui-Gon, you can use them with Keller and Beck before you get Mace Windu, and you're not missing out on a lot of stuff.
Now, having not read this kit yet, I glanced at it. I'm not gonna like. I always look at them, but I kind of just look it over. Do you feel like he pre Mace Windu has the capability of going with JMK, or do you think that it's not worth it?
I'm gonna say it's not worth it.
Okay.
Because JMK does better for that team. And there's some other, because I've read it, there's some other pieces here that are going to help you'll want to use this guy with. Yeah. Like Cam, where you don't really take Cam away from Galactic Republic Jedi.
Yeah.
It's going to be similar here.
Okay.
What I did like is they have that extra scaling on relic levels.
Okay. Which
I feel is good, especially for a tank that's huge. So it's a way to get you to, why do I want to Relic 9 this character? Oh, well, they're a raid character. Oh, well, this guy's actually going to benefit from those relics beyond just getting beefier. So that's, again, I give them credit because I feel like for a while there, it's like, oh, you just have to Relic 9 them because it's cool. And now they're putting some things into kits to be like, hey, for every extra Relic amplifier level, you're going to get more bang for your buck.
Yeah,
so I'm a big fan of that.
I've been saying this a lot lately, especially for people in our position who are in the end game. These characters, we are at a point in 630, 640, 650 million guilds where we now need Relic 9 teams. So while a year ago, I would never fathom bringing a character R9 unless they gave me other things, I'm now getting a character who's going to give me a raid character. They're going to give me a TB team, and now they're also presumably going to give me some sort of benefit just to the kit themselves. So this whole era to me has been no-brainers of like, oh, I'm going to R9 that. Oh, I'm going to R9 that.
Yeah, it's like, can't Mace Windu just require the R9 so I don't feel as bad when I do this?
So I don't feel so bad. All right, so let's quickly, these key attributes, so that I am on the same page as you with with what's going on here. Tank for the new Jedi Vanguard squad will be led by Jedi Master Mace Windu, badass motherfucker Mace Windu. Critical avoidance up, taunt, defense down are key buffs and debuffs, so look for those in the next conquest cycle. Extra scaling on relic levels for critical avoidance and defense, doubled while critical avoidance is up. Pre-taunt if all allies are Galactic Republic. I did read every Galactic Republic Jedi. I did read this earlier, which I did find interesting because someone on Reddit had said, like, why are they bringing unnamed characters to the game when they could bring named characters to the game? And I had said a week ago, hey, you know, just so you know, it's very likely that Disney has told CG that they can't use the Grand Inquisitor as a light side character, and that they're going to borrow from that for this kit. So I do feel vindicated with, while Temple Guards are anonymous and this version is not a specific named character, we did have some slight nods in the kit to Grand Inquisitor's original Temple Guard training. So I feel some vindication there to unnamed Reddit guy. I appreciate that was put in there. I don't care.
And they even said that the animation for the first special is going to be the same. It's the same, and the uniques calling out patience. Like they really did lean into Grand Inquisitor, which I like. I'm a big fan.
All right, let's see. Basic Unbroken Blade. Final text: deal physical damage to target enemy and inflict defense down for 2 turns. Once per turn if it's Temple Guard's turn and they are taunting. This is like a fucking tongue twister with all the T's. Attack again, which can't be countered. And if the target enemy has defense down, attack again, which can't be countered. I'm going to tell you right now that while this animation does look really cool, I swear to God, if it's another one of those slow-ass animations and you're going to tell me he attacks 3 times, I'm going to be really pissed off.
Oh, dude. This is another Nisa. This is another... Like, that is forever.
Didn't they... I think they sped her up recently. Someone was saying
they definitely have, but it's still not fast enough.
Like, it's... Some of these guys, I'm just like, come on, let's go. Let's get there. Attack once. I don't care. You're not what's getting me through this battle.
So yeah, that
okay.
Now the which can't be countered parts there, I do want to. That is really nice because there's nothing worse than like double tapping with a character and then getting a double counter attack from someone. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of adding that text in, especially for a tank.
100%. And I think if you're adding that in, there's a specific reason. So there's for something like that, it's probably like that closes a counter or it opens a counter somewhere, and it's hard to answer that without the other kits involved.
Yes.
Okay, special 1, fear leads to anger. Unlock tier 3. Deal physical damage to all enemies and ability block them for 1 turn. For each enemy ability blocked, Jedi allies recover 5% health and protection. Jedi Vanguard allies recover double that amount. Doesn't Jedi Guardian have a similar ability?
I was literally thinking the same thing, that I'm like, that's the same color lightsaber and this almost the same thing that at least Guardian in the game does. Your Guardian will never do that. But Jedi Guardian is deal damage to all enemies with a 55% to inflict ability block for 1 turn. This is increased to 100 on a critical hit. In addition, Jedi Knight Guardian gains defense up for 2 turns.
So it's like an upgraded version of it.
Yeah, it's like about time we got something new.
They're like, we're not going to update Jedi Knight Guardian, but what we will do is give you this. And it's a sweet animation. Like, I'll give you that. It is super cool.
It's sick. They've done a lot better with animations.
Yes. They absolutely have.
And and also I want to give them credit with Lord Vader's clones that it's not just like 4 versions of Oppo.
Right. Oh, they all
Because like
do. I can pull them up too so that you can kind of see them. They all do look very different, right? Like the disguised clone looks like a hobo from Diablo 2. CX2 looks like some crazy GIMP cosplay in the future. Some kind of weird sex shit. Oppo is your generic super awesome clone dude. And
Oppo is who I played as in every Star Wars Battlefront 2 game ever.
And then Scorch is a butch lesbian. So they all they all do look very different from each other.
And you think about like the regular 501st, how brutal it is at times to like, all right, which one? Like, thank God they all have different weapons and stuff.
Yes.
But you're like, oh man, this is miserable.
They all look exactly the same in battle, and you don't know which one you're using at any one time. And like even with arc and selecting the assist, I just pick random ones because I'm like, I don't know which clone is which.
Yeah,
I'm gonna press that one.
I don't even use. I know it's always. I have a very specific order I put them in, so that like I always put 5s last because there was the bug for a while, so that's like habit. Yes. But yeah, I'm very happy they look different.
I think they've learned from that from the early game.
Yeah, like Stark and Veers, where they're copy pastes of each other.
I still to this day always like there's an 80% chance that I'm gonna choose the wrong one when I want to put one as the leader. 80% of the time I'm wrong, and then I put him back in. And there's a 25% chance that I'm wrong again and select the same exact character.
I mean, even to a degree, Piet and Tarkin have... I mean, it's the exact same, like, stance.
Yes.
In, which is not in the... I don't think Piet... I forget if he stands the same way as Tarkin does, but in there, you go into game and they look exactly the same.
I don't know. I guess I really have. I've been using Tarkin lately in TB just because I want to test the clones without the Omicron. I've been underwhelmed with them with Tarkin, by the way.
I've heard the same thing. I meant to ask you about that.
Very, very, very underwhelmed. We'll talk about that in a minute because I do want to get through this kit without it being too fractured. But I've been meaningfully testing that this time around. So getting back to the Jedi Temple Guardian, we have Special 2, Cooldown 3, Stoic Determination. Temple Guard gains critical avoidance up and taunts for 2 turns, and another target light side ally stealths for 3 turns. Remove 20% turn meter from all allies. Okay.
Yeah,
all right. I like that it's like basic. I don't have to read a fucking novel. That I like.
And the big part here is the light side ally stealths for 3 turns, which that means you can hide Jocasta.
Is it select and another target ally? Yeah.
So you're gonna be able to hide her.
These are the types of abilities though where I kind of go like, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it until I have the whole picture. You know what I mean? Like until I have both the new Kit Depa, whatever her name is, and Mace Windu's kit, I go, all right, I'm just gonna trust the process and see what happens. Yeah,
I wish I could say I do that, but I don't. I'm like, this is exactly how I'm going to use this character.
No, I let... Because I generally do not get characters first run, because my Swagadaddies show up once every 10 years, I wait. I just let the smarter people figure that out. You know what I mean? Like, I go, Scribe will have something out 4 months before I'm even ready to use this character. So I
That's a
don't,
fair point.
I don't even generally bother. But
My
I'm just
swug,
happy
my
that it's a picture book.
my Swuggo daddy still is getting milk.
He's not coming back. He went out for cigarettes.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
So
we
then
have
the
okay, yeah.
unique.
We have one unique. So we have one Zeta, one Omicron.
Thank God.
I know that you and we were both getting kind of antsy about the number of Zetas coming out. And our Zeta is Temple Guard has 10% critical avoidance and defense, 10% increased. For each relic amplifier level, Temple Guard gains an additional 5% crit avoidance and 10% defense. These values are doubled while Temple Guard has critical avoidance up. At the start of battle, if all allies are Galactic Republic Jedi, Temple Guard gains taunt for 1 turn. And if all allies are Jedi Vanguard, all allies gain protection up 40% for the rest of the encounter, which persists through defeat and can't be dispelled or prevented. The first time each other Jedi Vanguard ally loses all their protection, Temple Guard taunts and gains critical avoidance up for 2 turns. While in Grand Arena Championship, and there are no allied galactic legends. Galactic Republic Jedi gain 50% defense, offense, and potency. If all allies are Jedi Vanguard, these values are doubled. At the start of battle, if all allies are Galactic Republic Jedi, Temple Guard gains critical avoidance up for 2 turns and inflicts captive on the weakest enemy, which can't be copied, dispelled, evaded, prevented, or resisted until the start of Temple Guard's 2nd turn. Captive is the thing that Fugitive Omega has, isn't it?
No, captive is what Hondo has.
Oh, okay. So it's basically Fracture.
Yes, I think so. I'm trying to remember if it's the same.
Well, we could pull it
I
up.
think Fracture might be. Hold on, Fracture's slightly better, I think. Can't gain buffs, bonus attacks, or bonus turn meter. Fracture
And
on raid
speed's at
bosses
0.
or galactic legends, 50% minus speed. Can't gain buffs and 30% counter chance.
And speed set to 0.
Yes. But hold on. Because Fracture also. So the thing with Fracture, I guess with Fracture, it's the debuff itself is very similar. But with Thrawn, he removes 50% turn meter when he does it.
Right, so that's just the semantics of each kit.
Yes. And this is happening, though, at the start of battle, or until the start of
His next turn.
for
Temple
2
Guard's
turns,
next turn.
or until the start of his 2nd turn. So it's basically until that character takes 2 turns, or until you do.
So then, do you want to run Temple Guard slow?
I feel like you're gonna want to. At least, well, you're not gonna want this character to be super fast.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. It's like, oh well, I want to run slow, and then you never get to use an ability because you just kill him. But yeah, I think you're not gonna want a lot of speed. I mean, it's a tank that's supposed to. The way it sounds, this is just a meat shield.
Yeah.
There's some good abilities here.
Mm-hmm.
But Jedi have needed. Both Qui-Gon and Keller and Beck both have been starving for a legitimate tank.
Now, two things. One, the kit itself is pretty basic, right? It's not a bad kit. It's just very basic, and I feel like it's a kit that is going to be built around call-outs from other kits. So it's hard to talk too much about it. But one of my original thoughts with Badass Motherfucker Mace Windu was that he was going to have immunity to Order 66 and was going to be a counter to the new Lord Vader just because fuck you, that's why. But but now this
Take a seat.
just because, even though he died or didn't die already. I don't know. I just feel like this unique tells me that maybe that's not the case. I don't even really know how to explain why. But as I was reading it,
I think your problem there's going to be, so your weakest enemy in the Lord Vader team is going to be the Nightfall Trooper.
yes.
So that's not a huge loss to get captive on.
No.
Compared to, like, I'd rather it be on Oppo or Disguised Clone Trooper.
Yeah.
What I would say is that you think the Keller and Beck team, Jocasta, this character, they're probably going to want to be modded for protection. So that will at least stymie some of the losses you take from dots.
Well, I don't think if you're doing a Beck team's not going to beat Lord Vader. I mean Mace
Windu.
Because I had originally felt like, hey, he's going to be immune to Order 66 and provide an easy counter. And I know he's not a GL, but that doesn't really necessarily mean anything. But I guess I mean that Temple Guard is so damn tanky with the amount of crit avoidance, with the amount of defense that the Temple Guard is going to have. But the Lord Vader team can get around taunts, which makes Temple Guard kind of irrelevant to that team. So I almost feel like that to me is signaling, it's not going to matter for that specifically.
I'm thinking too, even that Mace Windu, they're not going to want him beating GLs, because like the protection up.
Yeah, but we have like
they would have made that.
Balin beats JMK. You know, we have Afra. Well, Afra is a glass cannon. So it's not unheard.
No. But Lord Vader right now is their golden boy.
When they fix the
standpoint
team.
of, yes, they fix their team. He's the golden boy now. They're gonna protect Lord Vader.
Because there are, and I will say to Soul, it says no GL allies, so that means just your team.
Yeah, and the other thing there with I look at the protection up. If that was bonus protection, there's a chance that you're like, oh, maybe we can beat Ahsoka. But that protection up is just going to grant them extra offense at the start of battle.
Yeah.
So that's another one where it's like, all right, they're probably not beating that team either.
Okay. No, and the team seems to be, like the Lord Vader team, there seems to be quite a few bugs. With how different things work. Like CX2 is supposed to, according to his kit, I'll show it to you here. We'll go to CX2's kit. This was noticed. I didn't notice this. This was noticed on my Discord over the weekend. While another Empire ally is active, CX2 ignores taunt effects on his turn. But when you go into .gg, it's actually coded as if all allies are Lord Vader or clones, right? So like this is either not working correctly or it's not written correctly.
Got ya.
So that's like one thing. Scorch is apparently not giving Order 66 when his taunt is debuff or dispelled. CX2 apparently can only give Order 66 once in a battle, or once to a character, which doesn't say that anywhere in his kit. So there does seem to be some bugs here that need to be ironed out.
I'm not shocked by any of that, because I feel like this, whenever they've added something to the magnitude of Order 66, it's always fucked up.
It's like the Leviathan of the ground game.
Oh, dude, yeah.
When that came
bad
out.
but good memories.
That was a fun time in this game.
I
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, was that more fun, or was the initial Qui-Gon Omicron more fun?
I was too Omicron poor to apply that immediately. But that wasn't bugged. That was done, and they were just like, "Oh, we didn't think of that."
Well, no, it was giving too much offense. It was
Oh,
like,
okay. Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. But I didn't have it, so I didn't get to play with it. Unfortunately.
it was the same thing with Treya's Omicron, where it was destroying Lord Vader. It wasn't beating any other dark side galactic legend except Lord Vader.
And
which,
then they
like,
made it
always
not work against that.
Yes, like they're like, and that was, I think, what like pissed. This just goes to, my anger of CG. Like, there's some things you could have done to solve that problem, and like their wording was like, if there's no dark side galactic legends, and we're all like, if Lord Vader's not here, like,
Yes, they decided to be super specific about it. That's what they do. That's how CG works. Anyway, with this kit, I mean, there's not much to talk about. I think we could talk about it before Mace Windu comes out. I think we just need the second kit here to really kind of decide what's going on or see what's going on.
I appreciate that it's not a book to read.
It's nice when a kit is. I get why kits need to be big now, but it is nice when it doesn't have to be. And one thing I will say, I've been seeing a lot of hate for like when they make these sub factions like Jedi Vanguard. And I think what people don't understand is something like Jedi Vanguard is almost like putting files in a folder. Instead of having to point out every file, you can just point to the folder, right? And when kits get this complex, we don't need to say, is Galactic Republic, but not if it's Smuggler, but not if it's Scoundrel, but not if it's this, and also not if it's JMK. Instead, you can say, we have this neat little folder with 2 words, Jedi Vanguard, and we will call that. And that solves so many wording issues.
I think about how they refer to Commander Tano in Jedi Master Kenobi's kit.
Yeah, and that's...
It's a word vomit. It's like, if there's a Galactic Republic unaligned Force user, and you're like, ugh, like, can you just use her name?
These sub-factions are the solution to that, and I'm here for it. I am.
Because look at the Jedi faction for a second. It's ridiculously
Huge.
big, and there's a lot of quality there.
Yeah.
Like Ezra, Jocasta, JMK.
A ton of teams from it.
Yes. So I'm there with you. I'm a big fan of this. I think the sub factions add a lot to the degree of like Jedi Vanguard. I'm not a fan of mercenary, like Jango Fett, bounty hunter, Mandalorian, mercenary, scoundrel, separatist. Like, I get it. All right, I get it. We want him to have a lot of tags. He's the greatest character in the game because of the tags he has. But did we really need, like, for the mercenaries, couldn't we have just kept it to, like, Balin and a couple of the characters that go with him? Like, why does Han Solo need a mercenary tag? I'm never using him as a mercenary.
Well, to be fair, I do believe that CG probably has a roadmap that goes at least a year out. At least. Bare minimum a year out. So... I don't know. We might.
I think it has to do with datacrons.
Maybe. I
think it's all, again, conspiracy theorists. Come on now.
But you know what? Even if it does have to do with datacrons, that's actually kind of cool. Where that's what I like when things get weird. So I like when datacron sets make you completely change your teams. And if that's what it's gonna do, then cool. I love that. I had this great conversation with my last GAC opponent where I messaged him. We went back and forth. I ended up winning. I said to him, hey, I don't do this a lot, but I did our whole match on a live stream if you want to watch it. And he came back like 2 hours later, and he was like giving me notes. He was like, "Oh man, that's exactly why I used that team. I knew it was going to screw people over. Wow, you're like the first person that was able to solve this team." Like, and it was kind of cool, like all these weird things with different interactions and datacrons and having to figure that out.
Nice. I reach out. I would say when I lose, I always reach out. When I win, once in a while, I will. But normally, when I lose, I always do.
I try to do it before the win or the loss so that it happens either way. But yes, if I forget to and I win, I don't because I feel like it's gloating.
Yes.
Right. So we have two things. One thing I wanted to talk about really, really super briefly and just get some initial thoughts on, and then I know that you wanted to stump me with something. I had this thought today in library class, and I was thinking about the era coming up with the Jedi. Well, not the era, the episode coming up, right? We're in... The first episode was 2 characters. The second episode is 2 characters. The third episode is 2 characters. Actually, I'm already working this out in my head to where it's not even a topic anymore because this is the 3rd episode, so I don't have to worry about it. But in my head, I was thinking, wait a second, there's going to be no characters in the 2nd episode. But that was just me being dumb. So I don't even need to talk about this. I worked it out in my head.
Yeah, the next 4 episodes, I think it's what the next, is there 4 episodes on that or?
Well, this is just its own bullshit thing, but like, so this is the 3rd era here, because it's, the 3rd episode is Jedi Temple Guardian and Depa, and then Mace Windu, and then this is to show us that during this time, there will be the era battles for pirates, but we're still going to get the Jedi era battles at the same cadence, and then they kind of showed us here, though it's not set in stone, the fact that, hey, they're going to do one-off era battles every once in a while.
Yes.
But that was me being dumb. So we can go to you and this secret, ultra awesome question that you wanted to ask me before we end and I go to bed.
Okay. All right. Now have you caught up on everything Andor related?
I have not. I am halfway through Andor.
Okay. So this does not involve spoilers because it will still hold true to, like, you'll get the idea. If you could go back in time, you could take your brain right now for Star Wars knowledge and, like, put it in a jar.
Okay.
Would you take the opportunity to watch Star Wars in chronological order rather than the order that you watched it in?
So I watched Star Wars in the timeline, or, well, I don't even know how to put it. Like, the order they came out, I guess, right? That's the best way to put it. I think Rabid Beaver and I talked about this before with, like, kids. Is that why, are you like, I need to show my daughters Star Wars, and how do I do it?
The reason I've been thinking about this is because, like, I was watching, like, whether it was, Kenobi or whatever, and obviously some people were very like, oh, this show's, like, it's not that good, or whatever it was, and I was like, well, I think part of the reason some of those shows like that catch some flack is because, there's no, like, in the Kenobi, go back to Kenobi, which I think you've seen all of Kenobi, right?
I've seen all of Kenobi.
There's no suspense in that. Because
we know what's going to happen.
I'm going to try not to rant too much about the character, but everybody be prepared, this is coming. Like, that's why I hate Reva as a character so much. She is a character of no consequence. Everything she does in that show has 0 consequences to Star Wars. Because she's interacting with Vader, Obi-Wan, Leia, and then, like, Luke. Like, I know everything that happens to every single one of those characters.
Okay, so then my question is, how do you feel about Andor and Rogue One?
So that's that's where I say what Andor does so much better is that I know Cassian.
Yes.
And like Mon Mothma.
Yes.
But and Krennic, because Krennic's there.
But all those characters survive. Sorry, spoiler.
But yeah, spoiler for Rogue One. But do you know Luthen? And
so you're saying
Leia?
Because there's more characters that are outside of that. Okay.
Yeah, like, and you think the two made your villains for Andor is Cyril and Dedra.
Yeah.
Like, and Major Partagaz. Like, it's not characters who there's not enough characters.
Yes. I understand what you're saying.
The ending to.
What you're basically saying is that in Obi-Wan you have Reva, and she kind of exists in a space interacting with every character in a property we already know, so we're not invested. But when it comes to Andor, we understand the greater story, but in the story there's so many new characters that we don't really know what's going to happen to all of these characters that are happening around Cassian. Yes?
Yes. In my opinion, what makes Andor so great is that there's enough other characters that you are concerned about.
Yeah.
And in
they
Obi-Wan,
could
it's
survive,
like...
you don't know.
Yes. Where, like, it's like Reva's attacking Leia. Reva's attacking Obi-Wan. Reva's trying to go after Vader. Reva's trying to go after Luke. And I'm like, none of this is exciting because you could have...
Because you know who's going to win.
So much... Yes, you could have done so much more, and that's why I get upset, is it's like, you had to go in knowing as soon as they cast some character that is... I mean, I literally call her zero consequence. You delete her from that story, and nothing changes. In the sense that nothing she does matters.
I get that, and I understand that criticism that some people have. I think that you and I go into shows differently, and that's fine. That's the kind of the cool thing about shows. When I went into Obi-Wan, which I thought was mediocre at best, yes, I'm like, okay, I know Obi-Wan survives. I don't really care about this story, but I just want to see cool Star Wars shit. That's me. I was like, I just want to see cool Star Wars shit. And I happen to think that the cool Star Wars shit that we saw in Obi-Wan was not as cool as I wanted it to be. One of the biggest things that annoyed me during Obi-Wan that just pissed me off was the battle with Darth Vader and Obi-Wan, where there was like the most minuscule amount of fire, and it just became the most embarrassing, like, oh, and I get it. He's Darth Vader is like got PTSD. I understand it, but it just looks stupid. It just looked so dumb. It didn't look
literally
like this
was
cool duel that I wanted.
Did the Force not exist anymore? Like,
right? It just, to me, like, I wanted a cool, epic battle, and it just wasn't there, and that's what pissed me off about Obi-Wan. I like going into it and seeing Reva and third sister. I wasn't like, well, I know she's doesn't matter, so I don't care about her story. I just want to see the story be something interesting, regardless of what happens. That's me personally. And I think that was a failing with Obi-Wan. I think that was a failing with The Acolyte. I enjoyed Skeleton Crew. I am enjoying Andor, though. Like, I think the best part of Andor is psychedelic Mon Mothma, like, raves. Like, that's peak Star Wars. Like, that's great. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but, like, that's a vibe.
It was, what I think what Andor's done well is it humanizes certain aspects to characters that you didn't see before.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Mon Mothma being a very big character is now like a very major character politically.
Yes. All of a sudden you're like, wow, there's actually layers to this character, and she's very interesting, and you see, what she's going through to start the rebellion.
Now, to answer your actual question.
Yes. Would you go back?
If
And
I
think
could go
of,
back. Okay, yeah.
because you think of it, I'm gonna throw a bone or throw a wrench in this. Think of how many more moments carry weight. That, like, the Obi-Wan series, there's suspense now. Clone Wars, there's
But
suspense
you also
now.
lose suspense, right? You lose suspense when we talk about, like, Luke, I am your father. Spoiler alert, right? Like, we lose that mind-blowing moment.
You do, but now again, I would argue, like, I've known that since I was probably 4 years old, so I never got to experience that as an adult. So that would also be an interesting thing to say, is like 31-year-old me finding that out compared to, I don't know, could barely talk and I knew that was a thing.
Yes, if I get to kind of keep this in a my Star Wars knowledge in its own zone, I would be interested in going back and experiencing Star Wars in chronological order, only because I am somebody that's interested in different perspectives, and I can't even imagine Star Wars being viewed chronologically. And I just want to know what that experience is like. Do you know what I mean? Like, the way that we experienced it was the only way.
Yes.
And I can't even comprehend how Star Wars is different to people who started it chronologically. I
Like,
literally cannot compute it in my head what that is like.
I feel like you'd get more suspense watching it chronologically, because, like, think of the prequels. Well, I know that, like, you knew what was going to happen to Anakin. You knew that Obi-Wan makes it through. Like, you knew all of those things, and it's like there's so much more added suspense there. But at the same time, like you said, it does take away some of the original trilogy, some of those things that you'd kind of already know. Like, all of a sudden, you're watching Empire Strikes Back and watching Luke and Leia, and you're like, oh,
I think
it's kind of weird.
You know, I go to movies a lot. I go all the time. I love movies. Lilo and Stitch. We just saw Lilo and Stitch this weekend, which way better than the fucking reviews. Like, these fucking people, and they're just, we can only have the original, but we're not going to get on a rant about that. I
stopped listening to movie reviews after some of the ones came back and said Snow White was a good movie, and then all the audiences were like,
well, I'm not even talking about, like, movie reviewers. I just mean, like, when people go in and, like, you know, the Disney adults. Actually, when we went to go see it, my wife was wearing a Disney hoodie. And we went to the mall, and she turned to me and she said, "Oh, fuck. I'm wearing a Disney hoodie." It just had a Mickey Mouse outline. I'm wearing a Disney hoodie to Lilo and Stitch. Everyone's going to think that I'm a Disney adult. And she just accidentally put on a Disney hoodie. And I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. Like, you know, the Disney adults are super purists.
Dude,
but that's Yeah, I know. And you were just at Disney. Fucking asshole.
There was a Disney adult live streaming TikTok for his trip to Disney. And side note, Harper's looking at him going, "What are you doing?" And I can see him and he's talking to her, and I'm just like, being a fucking weirdo. And then he's like, you know, and he's trying to tell her what he's like. He was a very nice guy, like, all being said, like, was kind of explaining what he was doing. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, if you turn that camera on my daughter, because it was a camera facing out. So he wasn't showing his face. He was just, like, videotaping the park.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you turn that camera on my daughter, you're about to be live streaming and speeding. Because I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for he's somebody that is cognizant of that. But whatever. It's neither here nor there. My point is, like, when I go to a movie, I've seen so many of them that, like, for the most part, there are very few movies where the good guy dies, right? Like, so a lot of those suspenseful points, you're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? Is is Obi-Wan and Anakin, are they going to get out? Yes, they are. Yes, they are,
Yeah.
because it's a movie. Yes, they are, because they're the protagonists. Right? So, like, those are, like, minor suspense moments. Whereas, like, the Darth Vader reveal is this huge, mind-blowing, like, what the fuck kind of thing. So I think you're trading lots of little cuts for, like, a huge gash. I think that is the difference between the two.
What about Rogue One?
In terms of what?
Watching that fresh with no knowledge of what happens beforehand.
So so you mean like Rogue One before Episode 4, or like?
Yeah, like
I could get behind
just,
watching Rogue One before Episode 4, because
like
you don't,
that would be,
because Rogue One's self-contained, but it leads right into 4.
Well, it's I can tell you it's not self-contained. I mean, I think you would know that because of what Tony Gilroy has said, but it's not self-contained anymore.
I don't watch your nerd shit.
Oh, like no, Tony Gilroy, that he literally said like season 2 takes you up to the beginning of Rogue One.
No, but what I mean is it's
that.
self-contained in like the prequels. You're not, like, when you watch the prequels, you spoil the original trilogy.
Oh,
if you watch Rogue One, if you watch Rogue One, it's just kind of like a prequel to Episode 4, but it doesn't like give you any of the major plot points. You might not be as invested in Rogue One, doing it that way, but that's a great example of like the third sister thing. When you watch Andor, you don't know that everyone's gonna die, but like that like how this is gonna end. That they're gonna get the plans. Like they're gonna be successful. They did give you that beautiful at the end, like everybody dies, like, which is crazy for Disney, being one of Disney's like first forays. That was a big deal.
I actually remember being shook at the end of Rogue One.
You were like, what? In a Disney movie?
Seriously, I sat there and I remember like coming to this realization as I was like, I don't think like none of these characters are in like A New Hope, and you start watching it happen.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, oh no, like there goes Sharut. There goes Baze, there goes Bodhi. And, and then K2 happens, and that was, like, the most heart-wrenching part, right? I'm like, all right, well, at least I've got Jin and Cassian. And then you're like, no.
And they get their little sunset moment. I think now we need to do a once-a-month thing. We'll do chronologically, and we'll get back together and discuss it from a chronological standpoint.
Like, I need to go get a lobotomy first.
Yeah, I know. I think I would do it just because I'd be curious from a sociological standpoint. But if I had to choose, I do think like when and if and when I have kids, I do believe that I would want to expose them to Star Wars, at least the movies, in the same order that I saw them in.
Okay.
I think that's the choice that I would make.
Yeah, I'm torn because I also think that's the smart choice of, hey, you want to watch some really good movies with me, and then the graphics are like us to them, and then you go show them like.
I could spend another half hour on this. Again, as someone who watches a lot of movies, I'm sure. Do you take your daughters to see movies at all, like kids' movies, or do you guys not go to the movies?
We have not taken them to the movie. We're a little bit leery with like them sitting still through something.
Okay.
But we watch plenty of stuff at home. So
like, going to movies, I will say as an adult that does go to kid movies sometimes, I fully expect kids to be antsy. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
If any adult goes to a kid's movie and is pissed off at kids for being antsy, fuck you, you don't belong there. But so, for example, like when I saw Moana I think is a very good movie.
Is that the second one?
No, the first one.
I love the first one. By the way, so good.
It's a great movie, right? But then like we went to go see the second one, and I said to my wife after, I was like, I feel like culture has changed so much that the movie doesn't give you any rest. It's just one thing after the next, after the next, after the next, after the next. There's no breathing room. And I've noticed that a lot in even movies designed for adults these days, that there's no breathing room. You know, like I get tattoos a lot, and you leave what's called skin breaks, right? Which is kind of like the break between the skin and the ink, and it leaves these layers, and it makes things look nicer. There's no skin breaks in the movies now. And when we talk about making a kid watch A New Hope, there is a lot of those slower points. There's a lot of those like breaks in the action that happen. Those don't exist in movies anymore. And that definitely can be hard for kids if you don't expose them to that early, to where they're used to those other things.
That's true. Yeah, like it's like a Star Wars. There's like you don't want to call it slow burn, because I don't think that's accurate.
It's not a slow burn by our standards now. By our standards now, it is, because nothing is a slow burn anymore.
Oh, everything has to be like Avengers Endgame levels of like, that's like the whole
constantly.
like the Harry Potter had to break it into 2 parts, and the second part is like, 1/4 of the book, not even 1/4 of the book, and 90% just like magic flying everywhere, and it's awful. I like the first part better than the second part.
What I will say, I love reading chat while we're doing these things. I don't know if you have Twitch or YouTube up, and Lady Geek is saying that she went to a movie and a kid was kicking her seat. I will say, no, that's a kid being rude, right? Parents need to parent their kids. That's a kid being rude. But like when I go to a kid's movie, I expect to hear a little bit of chatter. I expect to hear kids poking their parents and going, "What's that? What happened?" I don't care. Like, there's gonna be a little bit of noise. But a kid kicking your seat, like, that's a kid being rude, and a parent does need to parent that kid. And a parent does need to be like, stop.
Yeah, I would never let Harper or Charlie get away with that.
No, but like when I go to, because we go a lot on opening weekend. So if I go to an opening weekend like Lilo and Stitch show, I expect it to be mostly kids. And I expect the parents to have to be getting up and down to go for pee breaks. I get it. Yep. I understand it. Like, I totally sympathize with that. I don't expect them throwing popcorn like at the fucking Minecraft movie. Like, that's just rude.
That wasn't even the worst part. The dude brought a live chicken into the movie theater.
That one I didn't see. But yes, I think
you didn't see that one.
I didn't see that one. Oh
my god, dude! No, they brought it. Oh my god! Now I feel like a jackass for laughing as hard. There was like fireworks and a live chicken inside the one theater.
Oh my god! No, that I did not. That I did not see. At all. And as an outsider, that's funny. But like for the people who are at the movie and just want to watch a movie, like that's terrible.
If I brought Harper to Minecraft and some kid brought a live chicken, oh my god! There'd be hell to pay.
Yeah. I think for me,
anyway,
like, I just want to see the movie, like I want to just sit down and watch, but I also have an understanding for the fact that I'm seeing a kid's movie versus like when I go to a horror movie and some jackass is on his phone the entire time. You're fucking 24 and you're at a goddamn movie. Turn off your goddamn phone, put it the fuck away, and let me watch my goddamn movie without your light glaring in my eye, right? Like that's different.
Yes.
I think my final point here is just to say, like, again, I do think that movies, TV, Star Wars, I know Ani was talking about Andor with his teenager. we have gotten to a point where we don't accept the ability for things to build. You know, we don't have things like Breaking Bad anymore. We don't have things like Better Call Saul. We don't have things like Mad Men, where these just very,
Early
very,
seasons.
very slow burn.
Early seasons of Game of Thrones.
Early seasons of Game of Thrones before it jumped the shark, before Arthur Fonzarelli jumped in and we were like, what is going on? With that, my man, it is 11:30. My ass, I know that you work from home, jackass. I gotta wake myself up in the morning. Do you have any final thoughts?
I know we talked about a lot of stuff. I feel like we actually covered almost everything, which is a miracle for me.
Yeah.
This is always great hanging out. That's like the whole fun of these things.
Yeah, maybe one day you'll actually let me buy you a beer, jackass.
Dude, we're gonna make it happen.
All right. Well, you figure out when those tickets are on sale. You let me know what they are, and we'll figure it out.
Absolutely. But I would tell people, when you think about this game, you really need to think about what you're going to get in return rather than what looks cool.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of FOMO, or I don't want to say misinformation, but some people will post things and be like, look at how cool this is. And then a bunch of people invest. And then it doesn't pan out for them. Because you're not in the same position they are. Like, it's really cool that my dad goes to vacation in Florida 3 times a year. It's also because he's in a fucking different tax bracket than I am. Like, I can't do that. I'd get fired from my job, my wife would leave me, and, a whole other mess of things. So that's a very long way to say, think about what you're going to get in return instead of just thinking about what's cool. And I think whether it's in the raid or, whatever you're going for, you're going to be a lot more successful.
You heard it here first. Fat Phil is a rich kid. He grew up with all of the 1%.
Phil grew up sharing a soda at Taco Bell on Sunday because that was a fucking treat, man. We were kings.
I feel it. I do. I remember those days. We're going to raid out to Meathead on Twitch before we finish up, because I love raiding him and causing him chaos before the night is out. I do appreciate everyone joining us tonight between Twitch and YouTube.
I might go live and do my TB here, actually.
And Phil, who at 11:30 at night is going to go live on his own and do his TB because he's insane and a night owl and doesn't need to sleep.
I'll feel it in like a week.
So while we will raid Meathead, feel free to bounce out of that in a minute and then go join Fat Phil. Make sure to say on Meathead, say, hey, Egnard says, hey, and then exit out and then go join Fat Phil while he does his TV.
And give Meathead a follow and subscribe to Egg. Make sure you guys do that if you're not.
Yeah, do one of those. Or unsubscribe. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't care.
Unsubscribe and resubscribe. It counts, right?
It does. All right, guys.